On behalf of the new commander, Brandon Cummings, the 87th commander here at Post 194, I'd like to welcome everybody. Thank you for coming. This is an awesome crowd. We got a full house here today. Brandon couldn't be here today, but he wanted to extend his welcome to you all. So it's almost time to serve breakfast. We're going to jump right into the prayer by Paul.
Let us pray. O God of hosts, we bow our heads in thankfulness for the victories thou hast granted us, to us and for those people who have united with us to stamp out the evils of aggression, intolerance, and greed. We beseech thee to bring the blessings of understanding to the families and friends in this and other lands of those who have given their lives, that men may be free. Grant, O God, that those closest to the fallen may mingle the pain of their losses with the ennobling light of sacrifice for civilization, sacrifice for a better world for this and for other generations yet unborn. Grant us too, O God, the courage to so live with the friendly nations around the world that the end of strife will be the beginning of enduring peace. Grant us patience in planning with our fellow men a world in which nations may resolve their differences by peaceful means. Touch thou the souls of men in every land with the enduring light of wisdom, so that may be formed a brotherhood of people who will strive to further the arts of peace and the laws and ethics blessed by thy love. Grant us now thy continued blessing upon unity and strength that makes victories possible in war, that we may win greater victories of peace. Amen.
All right. If everybody would stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Stand, please stay standing. We're going to have the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Okay, please take seats, and we're going to have breakfast. If you are just getting in, need a seat, we've got a few at this table here, right over here in the front, right over here. Welcome, Mr. Dale. Alex.
I was relieved by the fact that Brad came in, so I can pass the baton to him in just a few minutes. But I didn't want to leave without saying a few words of thanks and a few words to honor some of the people that you will be honoring here this morning. I first want to thank the American Legion Post for having us here this morning. This is a wonderful tradition, and it gives us an opportunity to take a few moments out of our lives in the morning to think about the blessings of the day that will follow, and the blessings of the life that we live because of the sacrifices of so many men and women in uniform who have placed themselves in harm's way so that we can have the life that we do as Americans, that oftentimes, unfortunately, provokes hostility from those who don't believe in that way of life and who would seek to suppress it or eliminate it from this world. Fortunately, in each and every instance, Americans rise to that threat rise to that threat and decisively say that we believe so much in a set of ideals and in the people that carry those ideals in their hearts that we will face hostility, we will face harm, and we will make sacrifice that is hard to fully appreciate for those of us who haven't been in the military service, that they will make those sacrifices on our behalf. So I want to join with all of you today in doing that. I would particularly commend the choice of your guest speaker. Dick Moody is someone that Representative Hill and I have gotten to know well over the last several years, who gives us all an opportunity to be able to help our veterans through Operation Troop Support. And one of the most important things that we can do is find that way to help. And Dick offers us so many opportunities, and his leadership is exemplary and something that is a great beacon in this country. So Dick, thank you. I also want to recognize some of the other folks that wear a uniform and place themselves in harm's way. I know that today we are going to recognize some of our police officers and firefighters because they serve that threat at home to our health and safety. And it's so important if we are going to continue to live lives where we feel secure and we feel safe, that we know that on a moment's notice, there are people that will come at some of the worst times in our lives to make sure that we are safe and that we are cared for. So I want to offer my congratulations to all of our police officers, and also want to say a particular word of thanks, as I know you will later today, for Firefighter Dale, Firefighter Hassel, Lieutenant Wallace, and Lieutenant Wilson, who went into a burning building at Enon Village and helped to rescue someone who was in one of the most terrifying times any of us could ever think about, with fire around us and smoke and the things that could threaten to extinguish our very lives. And those firefighters stood tall and made sure that there was not to be a victim that day. And when they did that, they did not only help their senior resident, they helped all of us, because it gives us safety, security, and the ability to go on with our lives knowing that we could have been that person, and they will be there. Our neighbors in our times of need, who sacrifice for training, to be on duty, and then when the worst happens, to reach out a hand of help in the middle of chaos and disaster and fear, and to say, here's my hand. I am here to help and defend you. So congratulations to, again, our firefighters, our police officers. Thank you to all of the men and women who have served our country and continue to serve our country in the longest war that our country has ever been engaged in the war on terror. As they remain steadfast, my prayer is that so too will we remain steadfast in our love for them, our support for them, and our willingness to do things as we do through Operation Troop Support, to say, here is my hand, and I will help you. May God bless them, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you all very much.
I'd also like to thank Senator Tarr and Representative Hill. They're leading the charge for the Essex County War on Terror Memorial that we're working on. So thank you very much, and continue to lead the charge. Continue to eat. There's plenty of food. They're going to be coming around, cleaning up. But if you want some breakfast, have a seat. There's plenty of seats available. I'd like to just start by going around the room, and if I can get the World War II generation veterans to stand. There's Bob Cronin right there. Elias, second class, Bob Cronin. 95 young, almost, a couple of weeks. And Henry?
Yay, Henry!
Henry Saline? 99 young. Just a kid. Thank you for coming, Henry. Is there any Korean War veterans here? Vietnam? Any post-Vietnam for Panama, Grenada, Somalia?
That makes me.
And any OEF, OIF veterans? Senator Tarr stole some of the thunder. We're doing some presentations today, but I'd like to thank the fire department and the police department. They're always supportive of our post and show up with us every year for the marches, and they've been great to us. Thank you, guys. I'd like to go around the room and say thank you to Dean Peterson, who's been instrumental in Wenham for the Wenham Legion, and I know he was working on doing a combined Hamilton-Wenham Memorial Day event. I don't know if we've made any progress, but that's still something hanging out there. Thank you. And I'd like to thank our veteran service agents. They're up here in the front, Karen and Kathy. They're over in Ipswich. If you want any assistance, they're available. Make sure you make a contact today. Thank our Hamilton and Wenham selectmen. Chairman, Jeff Hubbard, been there a few years now. He's a rock star in the town. Thank you for being here. And we've got one over here. Sean's hiding behind us. He was the former chairman. And Brad Hill, representative Brad's always been a huge supporter of our post and our community, and we'd love to have him here. And then one of our favorite, the Patton Hall's named after the family. This is Joanne Patton. Thank you, Mrs. Patton. It's great to see all the families here with their children. We don't often have children show up at the events. We love having the kids here. There's a bunch of them in the audience. We appreciate it. These guys have been great today.
I brought my son too.
Military Service Day planners and committee, Peter Glenn and Ernie Stone. We had a huge event this year, co-locating with the Legion, and it's been a great success for the town and for the homestead. And they put in hours and hours of work for both the post here and for the homestead. And our town manager, Joe, who's also a veteran. And the slideshow this year was put together for the 100th anniversary of the American Legion Post. We turned 100 in September. We've started on our new century. So these are a culmination of pictures from the last 100 years. And I just transferred some film to DVDs that we found on site here. And the earliest film was 1929 with the Memorial Day Parade in town. And pretty incredible pictures that we'll make available in the future. Wonderful, wonderful pictures. And the events really haven't changed since that time period. All right. Also, quick happy birthday to my Marine veterans in here as well. November 10th was their birthday.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to start with an introduction of our guest speaker. Many of you probably know him as well as I do. He had 23 years in service in the Air Force, served in Vietnam, Desert Storm, Iraq, retired as a lieutenant colonel. He's the president of the Danvers Veterans Council, past district commander of the VFW. He's the founder of Operation Troop Support back in 2003, which Senator Tarr talked about. He's seen all around with his black pickup truck and his 2 flags flying off the truck. We've had packings here at the post, and as Senator Tarr stated, you could do a lot of things that you don't necessarily have to get involved in depth, but if you find notice of one of these packings, they love to have people show up. You can donate money, you can donate product, and all these packages go to the troops overseas. To date, Operation Troop Support has almost sent 1 million packages to our troops overseas since 2003. He's received several national, state, and local awards. So I'm happy to introduce Lieutenant Colonel Richard Modi.
I am thrilled to be here today among all these wonderful people. One little clarification, because those of you that are accountants in the audience are probably saying, how did he serve in Vietnam, Desert Storm, and Iraqi freedom? You know, the truth of the matter is, I served in Vietnam, Desert Storm, retired, and then they called me back to go to Iraq in 2005, which was a highlight of my life, let me tell you. But you know, in retrospect, it was really, really good, because when we started our Operation Troop Support in 2003, and Greg was right, we're at 997,000 care packages. And you know, when you think about it, it costs $18.95 to send each package. And the amount of outpouring that the country has had to us has been amazing. Because if we don't send it out, it stays in my living room. So I'm out there beating down the doors every day. But I would like to say, if my glasses don't fall apart, the first pair fell apart a little while ago. I had to go out to the car. I'm not really going to talk about Operation Troop Support this morning. I'd like to talk about something that is a little bit more dear to a veteran's heart, and especially since Greg has said that in September you had the 100th anniversary of the Legion. Well, last year, everybody knows, was a 100-year anniversary of World War I. And I do not know whether you folks received some kind of a talk on World War I. So I kind of picked a subject that may be repetitious to some and may not be. It was, what did the town of Hamilton, what was it like 100 years ago? I don't remember it personally, but I did do a little reading and talking to people, and this is what I found out. On June 25th, 1914, Hamilton, like the other North Shore communities, were shocked by a catastrophe that happened 10 miles away. You may remember reading about the Great Salem Fire. It burnt down 1,300 buildings, left 20,000 people homeless, and that was kind of the focus on everybody's mind. 3 days later, when 4,200 miles away, in the small town of Sarajevo, Bosnia, the Archduke Ferdinand was assassinated. And that assassination was the direct link that caused the Great War. The war to end all wars, World War I. So it was interesting that there were other things on the mind of the folks back home when that particular event happened. Now, the United States, as a country, decided to remain neutral. But 4 things happened over the course of the next couple of years that made them change. The first thing was the sinking of the battleship Lusitania, or the English ship Lusitania. And that was sunk by a German U-boat, And of the 1,900 people that were on board, 1,200 got killed, and about 120 of those were Americans. So that set a really bad taste in the Americans' mouth. And then the next thing that happened, they realized that all of the beautiful fertile farmlands over in Europe had been transformed into battlefields. And all the crops got sampled, and so they didn't have very much money, very much food. So they asked the United States, could you please send us some crops, some food? And we did. But what happened when we sent it all overseas? The people back home had to go without, or go with very little. So that was another thing that was kind of dragging us closer into the conflict. The third thing was something that not too many of us know about. It's called the Zimmerman telegram. And you may have heard of it, you may not have. But a guy named Zimmerman, I think it was Arthur Zimmerman, had sent the president of Mexico a telegram. It became known as the Zimmerman telegram. And what he said in that communication was, if the United States of America attacks Germany, we will support you attacking the southern ridge of the United States to get back the lands that are now occupied by Texas, Arizona, and New Mexico. And the president of Mexico was mulling this over in his mind, but British intelligence intercepted the message and went right to the president and showed it to him. So that was kind of the third thing that started to eat away at America, to say, we really do need to get involved. And then the last thing was April 1st, 1917, Germany gave their U-boat captains free rein to shoot down, to sink any ship that was headed for England, any ship that was headed for Great Britain. In the next couple of days, 3 American unarmed vessels got blown up. And that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. And on April 6th of 1917, the United States declared war on Germany. Now, what happened after that? Everybody can read about the war, but President Wilson had requested that 500 soldiers be brought up, 500 people be activated to help with the war effort. He did not get a very good response. And so what happened was they instituted the draft. They had a draft in other wars, but they tried the draft. Hamilton entered the draft, Danvers, Salem, Peabody, we all entered the draft, and what it basically called for was any male between the age of 21 and 31 had to sign up. And not everybody went, but they had to sign up and get on the roster. And on July 26th, the first wave said goodbye. And they either went over to Salem or over to Boxford, 2 training areas. The 26th Infantry, known as the Yankee Division, I think you folks are all familiar with that, that was the first full unit to be deployed overseas. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about something that happened to them in just a minute. But I want to take a closer look right now at the town of Hamilton. And throughout my readings of how Hamilton reacted once our guys went overseas, they were extremely patriotic. You formed a home guard, and that conducted drills twice a week. And there was a reason for the home guard, basically to protect the folks at home who had sent somebody overseas. And they were the protector of the town folk. They also were provided uniforms, and they did training on a weekly basis. The Grand Army of the Republic, the GAR, encouraged every home in 1917, 1918 to display the American flag. The Salem Evening News reported that every home, store, and factory in the area is flying Old Glory. It would be nice to see that. An example of the surge of patriotism, I thought this was kind of interesting, and you have to really think about the times here. was demonstrated at the Orpheum Theater in downtown Danvers. Every single night at 9 p.m., regardless of the movie that was showing. The movie would stop, the American flag would come on the screen, and everybody was told to rise and sing the national anthem. Now, can you see that happening today?
No.
9 o'clock every night. Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, the Campfire Girls, all of these younger people joined in. The Scouts learned a little bit more about how to tie the knots and how to whittle, how to use the knife. And the Campfire Girls, they set up youth programs, making trench candles, picture puzzles, knitting sweaters, trench caps, mufflers, and washcloths for the boys on the front. This is how we got involved. Food shortage was a major concern. People across the country were encouraged to start their own little gardens, known as victory gardens. Exactly. And mainly that was so that we could eat, because all of the major farms, the food was being shipped overseas. The Essex Aggie, the Essex Agricultural School, began conducting public courses on the best methods of producing vegetable gardens, including courses in planting, thinning, weeding, and insect and disease control. The Protestant men clubs in town set up a program to have homeowners cultivate the private gardens in their town. And several meetings were held at the town hall on issues relating to food consumption. This was a big thing. People needed to eat, and this is what the town did to promote that. I never heard of this term, but I guess maybe some of you have, the Red Men. The Red Men of Hamilton was a club derived from the Sons of Liberty, and they voted that all members would observe one meatless day and one wheatless day each week to save on some food. And finally, no soda, ice cream, or confectionery products could be sold on Mondays. And no tobacco products could be sold except with food. Some of the unique little things that happen locally. A nationwide fuel shortage was impacting everybody. More and more vehicles are being used, like you know, on the battlefield, which means that parts, fuel, all had to be shipped overseas. And to deal with this shortage, Hamilton took the following steps. An ordinance was put to refrain from driving on Sundays. Restrictions on store lights were enforced. Saturday night was the only night in the week that lights could remain on in the stores. And no interior lights were allowed to stay on after closing time. A quick word about the money. The federal government was able to raise about 40% of the cost of the war through taxation. But they had to rely on other sources to do the other 60%. So they introduced a thing called Liberty Bonds. We've all heard of Liberty Bonds, and what this was, it was a certificate that would purchase by the people to give the government cash, and at a future date, those people could turn it in for their face amount of the bond plus interest. So that worked very well. That gave the government enough money to continue with the war effort. The town, by the way, did a great job with bonds. They had rallies and other fundraising events to support this issue. And finally, the town put together a committee who I would love to meet today. They put together a committee to send care packages weekly overseas. And these care packages consisted of socks, paper, pens, toothbrushes, games, and books. And my own personal gratification is that 100 years later, we're still doing it. The town of Hamilton contributed a lot to the war effort, but the real heroes were the soldiers that went overseas and they fought. Now, I've got a diary at home that was given to us from a World War I veteran. He was meticulous in giving a day-to-day event of his entire time on the European battlefront. And his family gave it to us. And I took a couple of excerpts out of Private Charles Walker Davis' diary. I have not doctored one single word. I'd like to read you just a couple of passages from his daily diary. This was during the Battle of Apremont in France. Quote, on March 6th, we pulled up near the line into a ruined town called Neuville, where we lived in cellars that were covered with cooties and rats as big as cats. They ran over you at night as we slept. Outside the town was the battlefield, where the Germans and French met in a death struggle. We were told that 20,000 lives were lost in 1916. Today we saw many of the bodies still on the ground, decomposed. And these are a grim reminder of what war is really like. The Germans are sending over considerable gas, and we have to watch our gas masks very closely. We are suffering terribly for clothes and a good wash. I have not had a bath in 6 weeks, and my underwear is black from dirt. About midway through his diary, Private Davis and the 104th were deployed to one of the most severe battles of the war, Belleau Woods. And you know, if you go through a cemetery, especially over in Europe, you go through a cemetery today and find a World War I veteran's gravestone, chances are you're going to see Belleau Wood written on it. That was an awful battle. One of the bloodiest of the war, and Private Davis described it this way. On the morning of July 4th, we relieved the Marines in Belleau Woods under terrific shell fire, losing considerable men. I shall never forget the horrors of Belleau Woods. The dead lay on the ground in thousands and had lain there for days. The stench was something awful. Why I did not go insane, I do not know. We kept on across the wheat field. Men were falling all around me. One shell landed right in the middle of the 3rd platoon and either killed or wounded the entire platoon. However, we kept advancing. We had no choice. How many of us got through that hail of lead, I don't know. Our time had not yet come, I suppose. We arrived at the German trench, and there we went in with bayonet. It was hard fighting. I suddenly realized that my arm was numb, and I saw that I had been hit with a machine gun bullet. Quite a number of boys were lying around me as they were trying to put on their gas masks. But they had failed. I managed to get mine on, but not quick enough, and that delay affected me for months afterwards. I finally collapsed, and when I came to, I was lying on a stretcher with my arm bandaged up. I was lying on I came in on an ambulance, and I was lying in a small church where the medics had put a couple of planks over the back of the pews for an operating table. After my surgery, I was transported to a larger hospital, which was very comfortable. By September 16th, which was about 5 weeks after my injury, I was released and went back to my regiment, where we proceeded to fight in Saint Manel and then on to the Argonne Forest. For the next 2 months, we engaged in terrible combat, but by the end of November, I received great news. I was going home. Charles Davis was one of the fortunate soldiers who returned home after the war. He became the first commander of the Danvers VFW post in 1932. In all, Hamilton lost 8 men during the war, killed in action. All of them should hold a place of honor in our hearts. The war ended and the fighting stopped 101 years ago today at 11 a.m. on November the 11th. Over the next few months, the official language of the peace agreement was hammered out. And finally, on June 28, 1919, which was exactly, that was the Treaty of Versailles that they signed. That was exactly 5 years from the date that Archduke Ferdinand was killed to start the war. Now, I'm going to finish up with a recap and just kind of listen to this for a second. 101 years ago, Hamilton was a community in small town America. The president called us up to war. A surge of patriotism swept the town. Flags were displayed, shops, churches, schools, and the town hall all did their part. But what about our veterans? Our boys signed up. They went to a foreign land where they could not speak the language. They experienced living conditions that were worse than they had ever seen before. They witnessed people fighting, injuring, killing, and in other ways that they were not prepared to witness. And they experienced hurt and wounds, both visible and invisible, that would stay with them for the rest of their lives. Think about our young men and women serving in the military today. They are being deployed to foreign lands where they don't speak the language. In most cases, they experience living conditions that were worse than they ever saw before. They witnessed people fighting, injuring, and killing others in a way that they were not prepared for or accustomed to. And they experienced hurt and wounds, both visible and invisible, that will stay with them the rest of their lives. We heard the writings of Charles Davis, a private in France, and we felt awful. Yet our men and women who served since that time experienced no less than what they suffered. So, in closing, remember, when somebody comes up and you see a soldier and you say, "Thank you for your service," mean it. Really mean it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt. That was fabulous the way you tied in the community and brought it into our small post. And if you ride through town today and over the past weekend, you've seen all those flags downtown as you see them every year, twice a year. So I want to present this certificate of appreciation for the Colonel come out and speak with us today. He's also got another engagement shortly from this time, so we appreciate you and have you back again. And let's have another pack here as well. Now, Henry and Bob, you guys are, you were there 100 years ago almost, weren't you? When you're 100, Henry, I want the briefing, okay?
A man of few words.
He is. He's fabulous. And I just wanted to also recognize one other group. They had a birthday yesterday. You saw the banner on the sign out front. 96, is that correct?
100.
You're 100.
Yes.
The 100th anniversary of the auxiliary. If I can get all the auxiliary members to stand. And as you know, every year when we do these events, the auxiliary come and set up the tables, do the cleanup, serve us, take everything down, and participate in multiple events throughout the year. So we value your participation. All right, so every Veterans Day, we, about 6 years ago, started a community presentation for both fire and police department. Because like I said earlier, we value them as our team members and part of our community. So this year, we are going to do it again, and I would like to start with the police department. I'm going to call Lieutenant James up as a representative for the officer awarded this year. Unfortunately, the officer was unavailable to attend, but we will nonetheless recognize him. So Officer Halloran was hired as a public safety dispatcher in October of 2000. In 2005, he joined the Hamilton Police Department as a reserve patrolman. He currently continues to serve as a senior public safety dispatcher in the communications center and as a reserve patrolman. In 2017, Officer Halloran received a unit citation for his involvement in a major criminal case and has received additional accolades for his contributions for the Hamilton Police Department and Fire Department Citizens Academy. So on behalf of Commander Brandon Cummings, we'd like you to represent this for Officer Halloran.
I will, thank you. Thank you. Officer Halloran couldn't be here today. He had a medical appointment with a family member. He's very appreciative of the award and being recognized by the Legion Post.
Have you come up and assist me?
Uh-oh.
He just wants to say a few words.
Uh-oh.
And one other thing I wanted to say about the Colonel's talk, it kind of sets the stage for the selectmen in town and for the town manager, all those wonderful things they were doing in World War I and what we need to accomplish today. On top of doing the Essex County War on Terror Monument, which all the towns in Essex County are vying to have it in their town, we need to update the monument that we have in our town for our veterans. It goes through 1975. So from 75 to current and future, we need to update the monument downtown. Wenham did theirs in the past couple of years. Obviously a large undertaking depending on how much we put into the monument. I think Wenham was 150,000 or thereabouts. So that's something we need to consider and look forward to leading the charge to get that done. And the VSO has helped me with the numbers of people that have enlisted out of the town and departed into the military. All right, so for the fire department, the chief contacted me, Chief Burnett, about a month ago with a list of names that he wanted to recognize for an exceptional event that occurred here in town. And Senator Tarr had already touched base with this in his talk. The chief felt horrible that he had to go to Hawaii and was unavailable today. But I think he's doing okay out there, I'm sure. And he's already been in contact with him and told him that we're moving forward with the event. So I just want to read an excerpt from the chief's declaration of what the event was. Our Engine 3 responded to mutual aid to the town of Wenham for their working fire at Enon Village on the morning of Sunday, June 3rd, 2019. The crew arrived at the elderly housing complex where they were quickly put to work. The incident commander directed them to conduct a primary search for victims in the burning apartments. So you can imagine with this large complex with multiple people living in the apartments with having elderly patients. So I'm sure it was quite hectic. While searching the apartment, the four-man crew discovered an elderly woman on the floor unconscious. They subsequently extracted the victim from the apartment to waiting paramedics. She was then resuscitated and was transported to the hospital for further treatment. And my understanding is she survived and recovered from that event. So we're here today to recognize these four people that were on that team and extracted the victim and brought the person to safety. So I'll have you all come up to be recognized. So if I can get Lieutenant Andrew Ellison. Lieutenant Robert Wallace. firefighter Alex Dale. And firefighter Christian Castle. Now, a couple of these gentlemen have already been recognized by the Legion for their past excellence in the fire department, so we're proud to have them back here again. Please recognize them for that exceptional event that they participated in.
On behalf of Chief Burnett and myself, we're very proud of these members. We're very proud of all of our members. Hamilton's a small town. Most of the time what we do is very simple and easygoing. But it's intermingled with that 1% of sheer terror. And these people performed well, doing their job in that moment of sheer terror, and there's a lady alive because of it today. Thank you, gentlemen, on behalf of the Chief and myself.
This is actually a very big deal. What they did on that day was heroic. And when you talk and think about that lady and what she was thinking during that time, and then to see the four of you come in, it must have been like the heavens opening up for her. We appreciate your hard work and your selfless acts, which is the epitome of what today is all about with our veterans. The fact that you would put your life on the line for all of us. These four have looked at your veterans, appreciated them, as you always do, and you have acted just like them. You veterans, we will never, ever, ever forget the service that you have given us. And to my little friends up front here, you and I, and your brother, we need to keep that message going for as long as you live. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your family how important the veterans are to the United States of America and what they have done for us. What they have done for us to make sure we have the freedoms that we have. I want you to tell everybody you know for the rest of your life how important veterans are and to recognize what they have given up for us. And in some cases, not making it back. Deal? Great. So on behalf of the Massachusetts House of Representatives, we too wanted to recognize these heroic efforts. So I have a proclamation for all four of you in recognition of your heroic efforts in saving an elderly woman who was unconscious during a working fire at Enon Village on the morning of Sunday, June 3rd, 2019, signed by the Speaker of the House and offered by me with great pride and great joy, and many, many thanks for what you have all done for us. Congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Give a round of applause. And I just want to call the kitchen crew out for recognition. Before I do, I just wanted to say Mr. Glenn's son's overseas, deployed with the military. I think it's worthy of recognition. He's serving our country as we speak. So as we do each year, we want to recognize those that prepared the food and spent countless hours, and also the servers. And the servers are part of that owner of the house, and the responsibility. And our managers are happy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks all for coming.
Our pleasure.
All right, we're just gonna wrap things up. We're gonna do the march from the town hall to the cemetery. That's gonna commence at 10:30. Everyone's invited if you wanna come. We do a silent march and recognition of the 11th day, 11th hour, 11th month, and then we conclude. The other thing I wanted to recognize, I thought the Girl Scouts had stayed, but they came through with some letters from the school children and the scouting and recognized us and provided copies for us. So I hope you enjoy them and read them on your tabletops. So I'm just going to have our chaplain say a closing prayer.
Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, we give this a fitting time to pay our respects to our departed comrades. As we stand with bowed heads in reverence to them, let us remember the good deeds they accomplished. Let us revere them as good soldiers who fought a good fight in a just cause. Let us silently pray for peace, the peace that passes all understanding. And let us in mind and soul concentrate our hearts and lives to the real America, the land of the free and home of the brave, the America worth fighting for. As we stand in this silence to our departed comrades, may we sincerely say, may their souls rest in peace. Amen.
Thank you, and I hope all you veterans have a great rest of the day.